This video is an uncanny discovery or recognition of what my body wants to let me know. And it's only because I masturbated while in the bathtub that I discovered this. Some months ago I had the initial inclination to believe that my bathing procedure is succeeding in regenerating my penis towards the growth of a new foreskin, but I wasn't sure. It was a tantalizing thought, but I wasn't sure, and I took my incentive for that thought from the fact that it looked as though my glans of my circumcised penis was softening up and glistening. You know, this is a long time ago now that I think of it. Well, with the inclusion in the bath of this latest ingredient of turpentine, dilute, you know, not much, but cayenne pepper and salt plus Epsom salts and MSM and hydrogen peroxide and silver hydroperoxide, which I have to make at home. You can't buy silver hydroperoxide. You have to make colloidal silver and react it with against hydrogen peroxide, food-grade hydrogen peroxide, because you can't use the stuff you get from the store. That's already been stabilized, but by reacting it with colloidal silver, the silver stabilizes the hydrogen peroxide and becomes a new compound, oxidized silver. Anyway, that's the active ingredient for regeneration, but all these other things help. Well, masturbating helps too, and I did another video some months ago in which I postulated the speculation that masturbation is a form of debridement, and when it comes to the penis, it might be the only form that's acceptable to us homemaker do-it-yourselfers, because we're not surgeons, and the penis, there is the risk of incessant bleeding. You know, if we do any kind of incision or poking or cutting off the penis, what if it should become erect? We could bleed to death. At least that's my fear. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's true. Debridement in the form of masturbation is a viable substitute, because it was only because I decided to put... So I'm using dilute turpentine at the moment to get used to it, because it's been 2 years since I've used it in the bath. And so my body has become decrepit. And turpentine is very good for strengthening the flesh, but at first it's hell to go through. So you have to use dilute turpentine, 1 drop of turpentine in a 1 or 2 ounce eyedropper bottle, diluted with 1 or 2 ounces of distilled water, shake it up, and then put a squirt or 2 of that, or a drop or 2, into the bath, and wait to get used to it. And I've also been using that on my food. That's much easier, but in the bath, the skin is very vulnerable, very decrepitly vulnerable. Well, the turpentine will strengthen it. It'll take time. And then I'll be able to use straight turpentine in the bath and straight turpentine on my food, especially on ice cream. It's really good. But until that happens, I have to use dilute turpentine. Well, the combination of turpentine and cayenne pepper are mutually building. They are mutually burning in their own respective way. And just to give you an example, if I put vinegar in the bath, it would ruin my use of silver, but it would make the burning even more intense. But there's no point to putting vinegar. I'm just using it as an analogy. When you add burning elements, they amplify each other. And so I had to go easy on the use of cayenne pepper initially in the bath, and I thought, you know, I don't feel very good. I feel like I need a little more cayenne pepper. I should have had more. I should have taken a cayenne capsule at my last meal. So I put a little bit more, just a tiny bit, because I use 90,000 heat unit in the bath. I use 40,000 heat units orally, you know, either the capsules or during a meal, or powder in a meal. So I put a little sprinkle more, a second dose, and it really started to burn my scrotum. And of course, that's no fun. So to take my attention off the pain, I started to masturbate. Well, lo and behold, at first I felt a burning on the head of my penis, but I didn't notice because I was masturbating, right? Because it tingles, right? So I didn't notice the burning once the tingling began. But then something uncanny happened. The glands of my circumcised penis spontaneously self-lubricated. Normally hydrogen peroxide in the bath dries out the skin. And I put 2 ounces in the bath in addition to the silver hydroperoxide, which was made with 2 or 3 ounces, I think 3 ounces in this batch, of hydrogen peroxide to react the colloidal silver. Of course, you wait several hours, and so it's not the same as straight hydrogen peroxide, but still, silver hydroperoxide plus 2 ounces of additional hydrogen peroxide. Oh yeah, and I put an egg in the bath. Sorry, I forgot that. 1 raw egg. I shake it up with the silver hydroperoxide and the hydrogen peroxide before I put both in the bath to sterilize the raw egg, get rid of any parasites that might be in the raw egg, because I don't eat raw egg either. So the glands of my circumcised penis became self-lubricating, and I was like, what? Of course, it makes masturbation easier. The skin of the shaft of the penis was still non-slippery, because skin dries out due to the hydrogen peroxide. And I cover my penis with a cloth cap when I'm out of the bath all day long and all night. I change them out every day. I rinse them with cold water. I turn them inside out to dry. And I cut them off of the tips of a Picante brand Castro model underwear. I cut off the tip and I use that cotton cap. And I let the oil build up underneath. I don't want to wash that out. And every time I put it on, I first oil up my penis, and then I put on the cap. And that helps moisturize the penis for about 12 hours, If I feel like it, I'll put it on 12 hours later again until I change the cap. Every 12 hours would be ideal, but I usually don't. I just put the oil on once a day. And the oil I make myself, it's a blend of vegetable oil. I guess you could use butter if you wanted to, or some other oil if you wanted to. Beeswax, powdered colloidal silver that I scrape off the electrodes from my colloidal silver generator using a clean, brand new toothbrush. Salt, sea salt in my case, because I don't want any grit from earth salt. MSM, baking soda, and silver, and beeswax, and oil. I think that's it. No water, no borax. So I could add turpentine if I wanted to, I suppose. But I added in the bath very dilute, and it was uncanny. It was the masturbation acting as a form of debridement, an acceptable form of debridement, mechanical debridement. Instantaneously, in the course of masturbating, the head of my penis became self-lubricating, and I looked at it and I said, am I bleeding? Why is it so slippery? Just the head. Although a little bit below the head on the underside, down the shaft a short distance. That's kind of scar tissue down there. So I begin to wonder, are my secretion glands starting to secrete fluid? They dried up. When I was 5, I'd wake up in the morning with eye crust in the 2 positions centered in the 2 pits where the 2 secretion glands used to function on either side of what would have been the frenulum had it not been removed during circumcision. And I paid attention to it for a few days in a row. I'd wake up and brush away the eye crust, and I go, what's that? I didn't know. I was 5, what did I know? And then I didn't pay attention to it anymore, and then at some point after the age of 5, it even stopped exuding any mucosal secretion at all, so no eye crust would build up, and now they're dried up. So the question I have to ask myself is, publicly in front of you, are the 2 secretion glands reawakening, and inclusive is the secretion coming out of the entire surface area of the mucosal glands? Because, the penis is a spongy material underneath the shaft skin, underneath the foreskin. the mucosal surface area of the head and the underside of the foreskin is very much like the interior tissue. It's soft, it's absorbent, it passes fluid and absorbs fluid readily, both directions, inside and inwardly and outwardly. So it's quite possible that the whole surface area is exuding mucosal secretion, because that's what the entire length of the intestinal tract is supposed to do, and the mouth, the interior of the mouth, and the esophagus, and the stomach. For good reason in the stomach, to protect the stomach lining against the stomach acid, but the entire length of the intestinal tract, the gastrointestinal system, secretes mucosal secretions. So the question arises, where is the mucosal secretion coming from it? But even more importantly, why? Why now? Because it must be a sign, a very, very, very stringent, firm milestone to indicate that regeneration of the penis is actually occurring. The foreskin is all about urinary health. Sex is extra. And part of that urinary health is the mucosal secretions that go with the lubrication of the foreskin. But the foreskin gap underneath the foreskin, which by inference develops the foreskin doesn't grow during fetushood. During gestation, the gap grows underneath. And it grows the same time the urethra grows, during the beginning of this third trimester. And there are videos online. You can go to my tinyurl.com/Becker-info web page and scroll down, and there's an animation that I linked to, and I think I downloaded a copy of it from a Swiss website located on a Switzerland domain .ch, and it's all about embryology, and it talks about the development of the foreskin, and it's very interesting. I didn't know this. So the foreskin develops because the gap underneath the foreskin develops, not the foreskin itself. That's already been there. That was already there during at some point, let's say during the second trimester of development. And of course if you don't know, it's our own peeing, when the kidneys develop and the urethra develops, that secretes the amniotic fluid. It doesn't come from mommy, it comes from us. That's why it's inside the bag, inside the amniotic sac. It's not outside the amniotic sac, because we create our own amniotic fluid that we swim in. We pee. And that's our amniotic fluid. And we drink it and gulp it while we're in the womb there, floating around. So mucosal secretions, urination, they're all linked together. And sex is just an extension of that, a further development of that. It's a kind of, just one more secretion coming out of there. But this is very interesting that masturbating inspired this to happen. Now, I've been doing silver baths for I've been doing it for several years. But not always the same recipe, because I'm developing the efficiency of all the various ingredients. And so I have a routine, and I just follow the routine. When I empty out the bucket of silver hydroperoxide into the bath, I immediately start a new batch going, and I have a stockpile. I have got a 5-gallon water jug filled with silver hydroperoxide and MSM, and then I've got another plastic bucket filled with some more. So I always keep the stuff on hand at all times. You can't go out and buy the stuff, you have to make your own. And if you don't make it too strong and you stabilize it with MSM, it'll remain stable for years, and very little of it will degrade back to its reduced state of metallic silver. It's very stable, much more stable than colloidal silver. And the mild burning of the hydrogen peroxide is minor by comparison to its ability to heal you, because of its oxidized silver that's dissolved in the water solution. You can't see it, it's clear, except for the silver that falls out of solution to the bottom of the container after several months, for the most part, the liquid is clear. It stays clear. But this is a great indication, a milestone, that I am regenerating my foreskin, but only because I use the penis. If you want a foreskin, you gotta use the penis. There's no other way around it. You can't just pee. I mean, maybe you can. It'll just take longer. Sex speeds it up. And so now, am I supposed to feel guilty about sex? No. Not if I'm using it as a means of debridement to accelerate the process of regeneration, which I am supporting because of the nutrients that I put in the bath. Now, I don't eat silver anymore. I really don't have reason to. Probably because I make the point of eating egg, and I have a special way I cook egg now. I take soup from a carton because I'm a bachelor, and I reheat it with a raw egg. I break a whole raw egg into it, and I cook the egg in the soup. And so it's a very watery quiche, which is the way I like it. I don't want solid quiche. That's too much egg for me. And I don't even eat the whole batch in one day. It's too much egg for me, I spend a couple days eating it and take a break in between, But it's the way to cook it for me. It's the way I like to cook it. Nice and watery quiche, flavored with veggies. And then I use that as a sauce over my food, and I might throw in some vegetables in the soup, like a tomato once in a while. Not too often, because I'm kind of sensitive to tomatoes. Not merely the acidity, but I am allergic to tomatoes, and I'm allergic to wheat, and I'm allergic to potatoes, and I love all three. I'm not allergic to milk, but I have a problem digesting lactose, so I stay away from milk. But instead I eat lots of yogurt and cheese, and that's good enough. And once in a while ice cream, but not too often. Actually, I'm making ice cubes out of ginger tea for the hot summer months, because we're starting to get some hot months now. And boy, do I need to cool off fast when I need to cool off, and there was no ice cream for me. So I decided to eat up the last remaining popsicles in the freezer and make my own flavored ice cubes with ginger tea. What else can I say? So this is a great milestone. This means that I'm actually succeeding in not only whole body regeneration, because see, if this is an indication of specific regeneration, then you can imagine that, the whole body is getting some support for regenerating itself. And I know that because it makes me very healthy. Or else why would I be able to masturbate at my age? I have the body of a 69-year-old going on 70. And here I am masturbating every day. It's hello. No poor health here, provided I bathe in my special recipe. So let's go over the recipe again. Raw egg is the most beautiful addition to my recipe for the bath that I didn't know was so important. But the water is important, and a comfortable temperature. And it's good to have fresh water nearby, maybe tea to drink, and potassium iodide tablets. Plenty of distilled water or distilled water tea and potassium iodide. So water is the main ingredient. MSM, high quality MSM, no DMSO residue. It should not be a cheap MSM with DMSO residue. It should be high quality MSM that you have to pay for. And I put 2 food scoops, which is 3 cups. It's a lot of MSM. I put in a 30-gallon child-sized bathtub. And I soak for about an hour and a half, give or take half an hour. And I wait till the water gets slightly chilled, because with all these hot turpentine and cayenne pepper I put in the bath, I can afford to let the water chill a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit before I get out. So MSM is the largest ingredient. And then the next 2 ingredients are equal in measure. 1 full scoop, okay, so 2 scoops of MSM, but 1 full scoop each of Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, and regular sodium chloride salt. And I get the rock salt that's used for chlorinating pools, the pools that are based on salt chlorination, the electrolysis of salty water, brackish water, because it dissolves easier. It's smaller rocks as compared to the rock salt of making ice cream are too big and they take too long to dissolve. So those are my minerals and methylated sulfur and regular sulfur, sulfate sulfur, and then I add, the raw egg, 2 ounces of hydrogen peroxide, and a batch of silver hydroperoxide in which my Pro 7 from silvergen.com machine, I spent 12 hours making colloidal silver in a 2-quart pitcher of distilled water, and I have all the set screws inside turned all the way to the right, clockwise, turned all the way up, and the knob on the outside turned all the way to the right, clockwise, to increase the amperage and voltage and whatnot. And I have my appliance timer set for 12 hours on that device. And then I have a magnetic stir bar spinning constantly. If you try to get away with bubbling water to stir the water, it won't work. I know, I tried it, it didn't work, somebody suggested it, and I gave him a thumbs up, but it doesn't work. If that's the best you can do, then that's the best you can do. Then you'll have to go in and manually stir it, because it really needs to be vigorously stirred, especially when you get to the second stage of making silver hydroperoxide. You really have to make sure it stirs, or else you're going to waste hydrogen peroxide, and you won't react the colloidal silver and turn it into silver hydroperoxide. It'll just sit there, all those flakes, cloudy water, cloudy silver water. You don't want that. You want clear water of oxidized silver that's dissolved in the water, fully dissolved. And then I use cayenne pepper. You're going to have to, see how it works, because as you sit in the bath, the silver will heal you of the burning action of the cayenne pepper. So you could add more later on. Just don't add the cayenne pepper all at once. And you don't have to use 90,000 heat units. You build up to it. Use the 40,000 to start off, or if milder if you have to. It's very good to add to the bath of silver. And then the turpentine, also start gradual. So 1 ounce of turpentine in a 1 or 2 ounce eyedropper bottle, filled up to the rim or to the neck with distilled water. Shake it up, and use that for several weeks until you get used to it, and then you'll be able to use straight food-grade turpentine from Diamond G as in George, forestproducts.com, diamondgforestproducts.com. You can get it elsewhere, but that's where I get it. It comes from Georgia pine trees, and it's food-grade, very high quality. And that's all I use in the bath. But I have lots of drinking water nearby while I'm bathing, because it's very important to drink. Water is the most important ingredient for regenerating the body. And potassium iodide to help the metabolism get a little kick so that you can handle all these nutrients, because it's a very rich bath. And it's a good idea to eat egg. Not a lot of egg in your diet, but a little bit. As well as bathe in the raw egg. You don't have to eat the egg raw. You can cook it. It's probably a good idea. And try to get high quality eggs, It's probably a good idea. Hey, that's up to you, Me, I like high quality. I like to spend the money. Because it makes a slight difference. In the end, eggs are gross. There's no way around it. So it does help to improve the matter by getting slightly evolved eggs. I'm not going to show you a picture of my naked body. I am not into that at the moment. I've done enough. I leave them up on the internet. I leave them there to amuse you. But it's enough to just talk about it, because I've shown you enough. It's important to tell you, though, that this is a major milestone here. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable to have a self-lubricating circumcised glands while underwater in the special water mixture. Unbelievable of the bath. Wow. Truly remarkable. So this is one of my 2 experiments that I run. The other one, of course, is on free energy. No, 3 experiments in my sleep circuit. So I've got 3 different experiments ongoing. And this is one of them, is the bath, to promote healing and regeneration, to try to turn back the clock of the death process, which is largely stress-related, has very little, if anything, to do with the telomeres, destruction of the ends of the telomeres. I mean, come on. genetic engineering is not the best way to solve the problem of the aging process. The best way is Becker's way, Dr. Robert Otto Becker, MD, and his book, The Body Electric, and his patent, tinyurl.com/Becker-patent. This is the best way to study regeneration, not the way the genetic engineering architects are going about it. And that's okay, let them play with their genes, but the karma is heavy. You better know what you're doing. And the karmic caveat, there's always a karmic caveat to everything, of pursuing silver and chemistry and electrochemistry is minor by comparison. And it's easy. We can do it ourselves at home for a mild investment of, let's say, $1,000, up front with all your equipment that you're going to be getting. And then the ongoing expense of MSM, which is the biggest or the most costly ingredient to resupply yourself. Obviously, sodium chloride rock salt is very cheap. And, the heating bill of all these hot baths you're taking, or cool baths. It doesn't have to be hot, whatever temperature is suitable for you. There's some expense involved, but it's something insurance won't cover. It's got to come out of your own pocket. And some time and attention to detail. But it's well worth it, because it's preventative medicine, something that the doctors cannot do for us. We have to do it ourselves, for ourselves, by ourselves, to ourselves, and for each other. And that's why I do these videos, these pillow talk videos, to inform you, so that you know what I know, and we don't go around ignorant, complaining, oh, it's the government's fault for not helping us. No, it's not. It's our fault. It's our liability. Let's put it that way. It's not our fault. It's nobody's fault. But it's our liability if we don't do something about it, if we know better and we just sit and lazily complain and claim it's somebody else's fault. That's really double liability, when we complain about somebody else when it's really our own liability. It's our own burden that we carry around of an unfinished business. Somebody has to finish it. Might as well be ourselves. That's the way to look at it. Let's see, I think that's everything to say. See, initially, one more thing. I thought it was a good idea to take these baths in silver, because if I'm going to hurt the penis, we have this social idiomatic expression of self-abuse referring to masturbation, but with silver, that's no longer true, because your penis will heal very well and very efficiently if you take baths in silver. You can masturbate all you like, and it won't hurt it one iota. But as we can see now from this morning's miracle, it'll actually help it, because it truly is mechanical debridement that will help the penis accelerate the regeneration process that's already been instigated by virtue of the various ingredients in the bath, especially the oxidized silver. Especially oxidized silver, 1/2 of redox. We don't want to go to reduction. That'll give us argyria. We want to go to oxidation side of redox, and that will give us metabolizable silver. Silver as a metabolite, as a nutrient, something you could not live a long life without. The definition of nutrient in the dictionary, Webster Dictionary, Rosemary Jacobs looked it up. We were having a email argument, email discussion, she and I, and she said silver's a poison. She was quoting Robert O. Becker, who thought silver was a poison, Don't take the stuff, egads, But, so it's no wonder he died of pneumonia, because he wasn't going to use the stuff. He wasn't going to use colloidal silver. So she looked up the dictionary definition of nutrients, and she said, oh, it's something you cannot live without. And I said, yeah, you're right. It's something you cannot live a long life without. It didn't take too many more correspondence. I think 2 more, one from her and one from me, before she said, you're crazy. And that was the end of the conversation. She terminated it right there. And it wasn't because of the nutrient comeback that I came back to her with. It was something else. But it didn't take long. I think she was just looking for an excuse to end the conversation at that point, and she couldn't on that one because I had her there. She couldn't respond to the nutrient issue because I upped her one. I trumped her. I trumped her, okay? A little trump joke there. I trumped her argument of nutrients because silver as a metabolite, oxidized silver, is a nutrient we cannot live a long life without. But reduced metallic silver, you can do without. Yeah, we can do without it. Okay? Got it? Get it? Good.